because it was a situation, hey, you're doing a great job right here. The guys are really excited. This is what we're seeing. I remember one time after a spring sports thing, I tried to be funnier than the person before me, and Ms. Achilles talked to me about that too. So I quit doing that. But the whole Achilles family was special to me because it's been a long relationship, and so I felt like it would not be if I didn't mention them because they are each other. They are the Achilles family, and that's why Grant is here today. Now I can talk about Grant. Okay. Grant, he just wanted to be a baseball player. And I think one year, we got those new white uniforms and gray uniforms, and I think Grant came in, I think he was a sophomore at the time. He said, these uniforms are too big. That just means we got to get bigger, big guys. Let's go to the weight room. Okay? But he just wanted to play, and I think, Lucas was part of the same team, and I can tell you it was one of the greatest groups of guys ever assembled for one team for 3 years. I mean, I can talk about each and every one of them, but we're going to talk about Grant. I know when Grant's, junior year, I left after their junior year. I just snuck out the back door when I had the chance. It was a hard decision for me to make, but it was something that I had been looking forward to doing or looking to do, and I felt like it was an opportunity there. I had to take it, and I felt like, I always felt it was important to leave a good foundation to somebody to take over, and probably a better coach took over, and they did a lot better, and they thrived. But his junior year, I told him, I can't remember how many times I got blonde hair. I think it was plenty of times. I think that's what I was doing now. But I remember, when we talked about their junior year, we were now being the hunted. Teams were shooting for us. And I explained to them as sophomores, okay, we were the hunter. We could go after and beat people. We're going to sneak up on, we're going to beat them. When Grant was his junior year, okay, now we're pretty daggone good. So we would go through the difference between being the hunter and the hunted. And I tried to find ways in which to keep them loose and relaxed. So I would always ask these questions at the beginning of games. And the questions where it didn't matter how they answered it, I always had another answer. I think we were at Liberty, was getting ready to face the Bowyer kid who threw like 93, 94. He was pretty good. And so I told everybody on the team the answer to the question except Grant. And so I asked the question before the game, and I think I can't remember if it was Lucas or John that came and said, "Such," I said, "You're right." And Grant got mad. Grant wanted to be the one to answer the question. That's how he was. He wanted to be the one to answer the question. But when we look at Grant, he was all district, all region, his junior and senior year. He was an academic all-state player, 3 years. He was the integral part of a baseball team that won 2 consecutive Seminole District titles, helped lead the Pioneers to the state title game in 2001. And I think back then when I look at all the players that I coached, and there's a number of them that got into the coaching, and I always say because they knew what not to do, so that what made them got into coaching. That's why they've all been successful. But Grant was a coach then, and I think there was a time, probably his junior year, where I realized it, and I'm not going to go through the whole situation, but it was something where, I asked the team to vote, and there were 3 people who voted against the rest of the team, and Grant was one of them, and that's when I kind of knew. I said, okay, he's got it, and he's probably going to be a coach. So he was destined to be a coach, and I think, all these guys, they understood the game of baseball, and they loved baseball, and they wanted to give back, and that's why they're coaching. He always, like I said, he wanted to be the best in everything that he did. He wanted to make sure he got the right answer. He wanted to make sure that he was the best player. He wanted to make sure that he was always first. He went to Wake Forest. He followed Todd, who went to Wake Forest too, and I'm sure Wake Forest is waiting for some other Achilles kids to go because it's been a lapse in tuition payments to Wake Forest. To talk about Grant, you look at this situation. His freshman year, you know, he walked on at Wake. His freshman year, he appeared in 4 games, had 2 at-bats. Okay. It's very difficult, you know, as coaches, you know, they know, difficult for a freshman to jump in and be an impact. His sophomore year, he appeared in 9 games and had 4 at-bats. Now, most players at that moment in time would say, this is not for me. But Grant stuck it out. He got to his senior year, because I think he had a medical red shirt the 3rd year there. His senior year, he appeared in 21 games, started 13 of them, and batted .254. This was someone who did not, you know, most people would have given up at that moment after 2 years. You know, hey, I've played in a total of 13 games out of 120. I've got 6 at-bats. I don't know. I mean, you know, Luke, I've been a coach, and I know guys that don't play a whole lot, man, they're not really happy on coming back the next time. Not many people would have continued after 2 years, but he was a baseball player, and he did. He continued. Okay. Some quotes. I looked up some stuff here. Grant. There was one thing in their baseball media guide that was stated about Grant every single year. He gives 100% every day at practice. That was always the first line in every media guide for Grant Achilles. Okay. After 1 year there, he came back after fall practice. The coach, you know, talked about him, said he was probably one of the most improved players on the team from his freshman year to his sophomore year. And I can see this being true. After 2 years there, going to his junior year, I saw where his teammates voted him most likely to become a coach. Okay. And then in 2006, he was a track captain for Wake Forest. Okay, so you're looking at a situation where he did not get a whole lot of playing time in the beginning, but he was a baseball player, and he came through. Okay. The one thing that I felt was important is that every single season, as I said, he was cited for being the one to give 100% every day. His coaching career, I mean, he's taken the easy track. I mean, you know, Lucas had a hard track to mess with. But he's taken the easy track. He went to UNC Charlotte, I think, for a year. Okay, and they talked about improvement in one phase of UNC Charlotte. I might not have them in the right order, but I think I got them all. He went to Western Carolina. He coached for 2 years. Western Carolina, if you don't know where it is, you can't find it from here. Okay, it's in the, I guess, is that the western part of North Carolina in the mountains? Okay. He was a volunteer assistant at Wake Forest. Volunteer assistance is not fun. Okay, you're a volunteer. You know how much you get paid when you're a volunteer? Nothing. Sometimes they find a job for you to do so you can get a little pay, but you're classified as a volunteer assistant coach. He worked at Georgetown University for 1 year there, and they talked about the improvement they made offensively. He became an assistant at Brown University. Now, Brown University is an Ivy League school. It's up in Providence. I think it's Providence. Is it Providence, Rhode Island? Providence, Rhode Island. As Grant and I talked yesterday, he said it's a wonderful place from like May until beginning of November. Then it's not so wonderful after that. He was 2 years an assistant, and basically through his second year, he took over the head job midway through the 2014 season. And I'm sure they did interviews and search for coaches. And on June 23rd, 2014, Brown University named Grant Achilles their new head baseball coach. And what he's done at Brown University is their team has improved. I don't know if you know how hard it is. It's a lot easier to recruit at Lynchburg, University of Lynchburg. Well, I can recruit at Lynchburg College a lot easier than he can recruit at Brown University. It's kind of like my friend Jeff Stickley, used to be at W&L. He said he feels kind of out of place because on away trips, his team is reading the Wall Street Journal and he's reading Baseball America. But when we look at, with Grant, the whole thing about Grant was he was a baseball player. And, with the support of his family, his brothers, and the community that we had during those times, probably through, we got George Nash here. I'll mention you, George, because you didn't wear that glass hat today. Thank you. George, I think you probably coached all the Achilles too, didn't you? Did you coach all of the Achilles too? He coached all the Achilles in Lynchburg Little League. But this was kind of where Grant was destined to be. He was a great player here at Heritage High School. But I had great players, and he was part of that, and he stood out. I know we went for years, and I can't remember when it stopped, but it was probably my fault because I forgot. But we would call each other on our birthdays. Okay, we did that for years. And so we understand the relationship that I've had with the Achilles as a whole. Marie, your 3 sons did survive me. And they all turned out pretty good. I didn't damage them at all. And I feel bad, like I told Todd. Todd surprised me with being here. I said, well, I don't feel bad now. I can talk about Todd. Don't feel bad. I do feel bad about talking about Chad. But their upbringing led them, and Grant, with his family support and the love of his family, continued to thrive through Little League, middle school, and high school, college, and in his personal life now. I know he just recently got married. I think it was a year ago or 2 years, 4 years ago? Dang, I didn't get an invitation, so. But to me, I can't, it's my honor and my privilege to induct Grant Achilles into the Heritage Athletic Hall of Fame.
There's nothing quite as embarrassing as having somebody talk about you for any length of time, in my opinion. But thank you, Coach. I think one common thread that we've seen here tonight is the relationship that's between the players and the coaches, and that's something that's just insurmountable. For me, well, first I'll start and thank just a couple of people, just the highlight reel, because I could probably stay here forever thanking, like all of us probably could have. First, my parents, my mom who's here, my dad unfortunately passed away when I was in school as well, but just that support, just something that you don't truly recognize until after. You don't know what everyone else's situation is, but you take yours for granted. Second, my brothers, as you know, they came before me in every literal way, and that not only set the tone and the standard for what the expectation was. You walk into a classroom and it's like, oh, you're Todd and Chad's brother. No, my name's Grant Achilles. I'm not Todd's brother, I'm not Chad's brother, but the good part was they had a lot of things that I couldn't get into trouble. I couldn't, because everybody literally knew who my family was before I even got there. They pushed me in ways that when you're the youngest, you want to be like the older ones. And when you're shorter and skinnier and you get pushed around easier, but you still want to be out there with them, it makes you better, in my opinion. Third, my teammates. Goodness. Lucas certainly being here, it means a ton to me. Just the teammates that I was fortunate to have. Guys who, again, thinking back, it's 20 years essentially 20 years since we were in high school, and still friends to this day. Guys that you go through thick and thin with, again, at times where you don't realize, and then you look back on those experiences just with such a mindset of, wow, how much different were we back then? How much have we grown? And if we didn't have each other, then none of us would be where we are today. And then finally, just kind of circling back to the relationships between the players and the coaches. My relationship with Coach Knight goes back a long way. Dr. Jones was a coach of mine, and just really instilled a lot of the passion for me. Coach Glover, Coach Nash. I mean, just the coaches that were there for everything that we had. And there are a lot of times where your experiences with things can either push you towards it or push you away from it. And for me, my experiences pushed me towards it. Because outside of my dad and my brothers, most influential people in my life were my coaches. And that's why when it became an opportunity for me to be a coach, I mean, looking back on gratitude, I'm not where I am today personally, professionally, as a man, without the men that went before me. And so thank you for this honor. Listening to all of the things that these men and women did, gosh, like, wow. I will continue to say that I do not belong with the athleticism that is here, and just very honored to be a member of this class.